if you've ever used an AI that gave you a confidence score, you may be wondering, what is that? How does it work, right? Maybe you got a bad answer, but a high score, and you're scratching your head like, how does that make any sense? It comes up all the time. We're going to show you how confidence scoring works. We're going to give you examples of good systems, bad systems, so that you never get duped by an AI again. So first, our AI confidence score is a scam. A lot of people ask us this. Users come to us all the time saying that they got a score, they didn't trust it, or it was completely false. The short answer is no. They're not all scams. They're not illegitimate. The problem is that they're implemented in unreliable ways. So when you ask an AI a question and you get an answer that's accompanied by a score, it depends how that scoring system was implemented. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples that we see in the wild all the time. These are two bad scoring mechanisms where if you encounter them, just move on, use something else. The first is asking the LLM to grade itself. Terrible idea, dude. It's like telling a student to grade their own homework. What's the point of that? If it was a bad answer and you're asking AI for a confidence score, you might as well be asking, why did you generate a bad answer in the first place, right? Just doesn't make sense. We're going to dig into why. The more nuanced example is when vendors use search similarity scores as a proxy for confidence. This is a little bit more interesting, where they'll take the score associated with the documents powering that answer, and they're going to present it to you as a confidence metric. I'm going to show you why that's a bad idea. So first, what happens when you ask the LLM for a score? Well, I asked this question of my AI. Does the Arduino Uno Q support Wi-Fi? I get a good answer, 98% confident. I'm like, yes, I feel good. I'm going to go about my day. Obviously, you know what you're talking about, right? Wrong. If you ask the follow-up question, a little more specific, hey, does the Uno Q support Wi-Fi via sketch files? You get a slightly different answer. It's still a yes, but the confidence score has gone down. Bro, is 90 bad? Is it good? Does that change my opinion of the 98? Why is it 90 now, right? Like, what has changed in the answer? The reality is, it's a little more nuanced than that. If you read the documentation, you'll find out that the Uno Q has a Linux system running on the board. So the way you interface with Wi-Fi is through Python, not directly through the sketch files. So there's a little bit more nuance to it, right? But this is a good example of asking an LLM to grade itself is just unreliable. It cannot do that reliably. It's not meant to do that. And asking the LLM for the score is going to lead to a lot of examples where you're just not sure what the score even tells you, if it's good or bad, and examples where bad answers can still give you high scores. Happens all the time. But my least favorite thing about this method is that the mid scores will mislead you. They give you a false sense of security. I got a 90% here, and I don't even know if that's good or bad, right? So I think asking the LLM for a score is something you should never do. And if you have a vendor or a tool that's doing that, make it stop. Just ask them you don't want those scores. They're not going to help you. The other method that you got to look out for is using search relevance as a proxy for confidence. So when you ask an AI a question, chances are it's retrieving documents or sources under the hood, and it's ranking those documents by relevancy, right? Think of a Google search. You got 10 results. They're ranked in terms of relevancy. There's a lot of quality metrics that go into it. But in this case, if I'm asking a question about multi-factor authentication, I'm getting back results about multi-factor authentication. And they're pretty relevant. I've got a data sheet, I got a web page, maybe I've got some other stuff. So the AI tells me, hey, I'm 90% sure that this is a good answer. The problem is, once I dig into that actual documentation, I realize the answer, yes, it does, is wrong. Because I look in the source and I realize we no longer support MFA. So your reaction to that is, how did you give me such a good score when the answer and the data are completely different? Like, they're not related at all. The problem here is that they're giving you the metrics for search relevancy and they're presenting it to you as a confidence score. That's a bad idea. The metrics that are associating the word multi-factor authentication with these documents are valid. They are related. But presenting that as a score for the answer is a bad idea. It has nothing to do with the answer. It's not factually correct or incorrect, and the scoring has no bearing on the factual, reality of the answer. I'm getting my words mixed up here, but you understand exactly what I mean, right? So are there examples of good confidence scoring? Because we know the bad ones are obvious, but there are good ones out there too. The first one, humans. Yeah, Absolutely, humans are the best source of grading an AI. There's no question about that, bro. Humans are judging AI systems every day. Thumbs up, thumbs down. You've got reinforcement learning. You've got answer corrections. You are the best judge of an AI system. Don't ask anyone else for an opinion that's better than that, right? And it's going to stay that way for a while. But there's also automated approaches, right? So don't think you can't use an LLM, because you can. If you have a separate calibration layer, an LLM that's fine-tuned to checking those answers and the quality of those responses, you could actually get a lot of mileage out of this. So think of a separate model that's trained on historical outputs. It knows if the outputs are good or bad, and then you can ask that for a score much more reliably than you would just a standard off-the-shelf model. The problem with this is most vendors don't do this. They're not training separate models to grade their own answers. They're just asking the same LLM or something similar for an output, to grade the output. It's not a good idea, but it is possible. And the last thing that I would mention is try to go for a binary response system. When you're working with Q&A systems, RAG, or any kind of answer engines, we really want to be able to just say the question is or is not answered, right? For example, at OneUp, when we get a partial response or an answer that doesn't come together really well, we want OneUp to explain why, right? If you can't answer the question, give the user some information on why that is and help them figure out the better response, because that's what's going to give the user a better feedback loop than a confidence score. Confidence score is useless in this case, right? So in short, confidence scores can be legit, right? They're not a scam, but the way that they're presented by vendors and tools today really overstates their reliability. So if you're encountering confidence scores, ask your vendor, how are these coming together? Where are these metrics from? What kind of models are you using? And maybe if they're not reliable, just turn it off. You don't need that data.